What's up everyone, my name is TotsIGots, and today we'll be discussing the patch notes for the patch Solar Flare, which will be launching on October 6th. So I'm here on Smite forums, and we're going to be checking out who the new goddess is, and that will be Sol. And she is a Norse goddess of the sun, I believe, and we'll just talk about her a little bit and what she's about. So first of all, her passive, it adds a little bit of variation in her possible roles. She's not just restricted to mid and solo. She could possibly play jungle and ADC. We'll have to see when she comes out on the PTS and her actual release on October 6th. So let's read this. Sol gains heat as she uses abilities and hits with basic attacks. She gains 1% magical power and 1% attack speed for every 3% heat. At 100% heat, Sol's basic attacks gain plus 50% damage, so heat decreases over time, and each basic attack gives you plus 5% heat. That will make you do 20 basic attacks until you get your 100%. But aside from that, let's talk about how else you could get heat. Now you can also get heat by your abilities here, like Radiance, Stellar Burst, and all her other ones. They give you a little bit each. You know, you won't just get 100% every time, and it will decrease. So using these abilities won't take away your heat, I believe. So yeah, for now, she does seem like she could ADC just because of the fact that she gains attack speed, magical power, and just like it seems like she could do well with her basic attacks, right? But the whole her kit isn't necessarily like giving her that kind of opportunity to be an ADC like Freya, where she can just like 100 to 0 characters like crazy. But we'll talk about that a little bit more once we take a look over the kit. So her number 1 is called Radiance, and Sol burns bright, gaining a large amount of heat, healing herself over time for 5 up to 25% of missing health over 5 seconds, and igniting the ground around her. So enemies that walk onto the fire take 30 up to 150 plus 25% of your magical power as scaling, and that is damage. So this ability provides 40 up to 80% heat, and the cost is 60 to 100 mana. The cooldown relatively low at 15 seconds, and this seems like a really good ability. So first of all, it will restore 5% of missing health every 1 second at max rank here. That's 25% over 5 seconds, and it will restore 1% of your missing health every 1 second. It will restore 1% of your missing health. So you know, it's not broken, you know, it's not hell where she's doing like 300, 400 health, you know, it's just base health. This is percentage base health, so, and it's not even your maximum health, it's your missing health. So when you use this ability, it will definitely be important when you use that, but it is healing over time, so perhaps a little preemptive use would not hurt you. And also it does damage, so that's a very good, like a double ability, kind of like a Hell's, but you don't have to stand switch for it, right? So enemies that walk onto the fire take this amount of damage every second, and I believe the little pool stays for like 3 seconds or something like that, and 150 times 3 is 450 plus 25% of your magical power, so that's pretty good, and with a cooldown of 15 seconds. This can be spammed, definitely. It can grab some CDR and you'll probably do really well just with this ability alone. It seems like it isn't a dot necessarily in like an Agni Path of Flames. His 3, even if you're not walking over the flames, you're still on fire and you'll take that dot damage. It seems like this, if you step on it, then you take damage. If you're off it, then you won't. Pretty simple. So, and that's every second. So next is Stellar Burst, her 2. This will it's basically like a basic attack enhancer. It's not like a Freya. It is kind of like a Freya in the sense that it enhances your basic attacks, but it's a single use type thing. So her next basic attack explodes, creating a shockwave that travels out, dealing 40 up to 160 damage. At full size, the wave retracts, dealing damage again and slowing enemies. This ability provides 10% heat, and the cost is 60 up to 80 MP. The cooldown is 10 seconds, so that is very, very low. If you have 40% CDR, which is the highest you can have, it will have a 6-second cooldown, and that is on your basic attacks. So I think this is a really, really strong ability right now, and it seems like it's your main clear in lane. Radiance could probably be your main lane clear or jungle clear, I guess, if you want to try her in jungle, or even in solo, because you're taking that damage, but you're also healing yourself, right? So yeah, Stellar Burst definitely seems like it, because you do 160 on the first thing you hit with your basic attack, and then after a short delayed amount of time, then it will retract and do 160 damage in an AoE, as well as slowing enemies. So I think this is a really good ability in the fact that it will do double damage on the first enemy you hit, as well as doing a single amount of damage in the AoE, but it also slows, so that just kind of helps out with the amount of damage that it does, because it's pretty low, just 160, but then you add another 160, all of a sudden you're hitting for 320 damage, you know? Couple that with the fact that its cooldown is 10 seconds with CDR, doing about 320 damage every 6 seconds, I think that's pretty high. Her next is her main escape, and Soul burns down her manifestation, gaining movement speed of 30 up to 50% and ignoring all movement penalties, while leaving a trail of fire behind her that damages enemies 20 to 100 every 0.5 seconds, and I believe that's 3 seconds. So 6 ticks of 100 is 600, so keep that in mind. After 3 seconds, Soul loses corporeal form for a short time, and her trail explodes, stunning enemies for 1.5 seconds. Soul may leave her incorporeal form early. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Incorporeal or incorporeal? Doesn't really matter, really. This ability provides 10% heat, as well as a cost of 60, flat, mana, and a cooldown of 15 seconds. So already, we've seen her main kit that she'll be using for the majority of the game, and her highest cooldown is 15 seconds, and that's relatively low. So already we can see that she has multi-roles as a mage. She could be like jungle, solo, mid, doesn't really matter. And she is a spam mage because of those low cooldowns. She does massive damage and can channel healing while doing damage, and can escape using her 3. So basically do the damage and then just escape. That's kind of the way I'm seeing this right now, and that's kind of what a spam mage does, right? It's like they do as much as they can and then leave before they die. Kind of like a Hebo, but a lot safer than Hebo. So reading this over, you gain up to 50% movement speed and ignore all movement penalties. This includes roots, cripples, and slows. So I mean, that's really strong, considering someone like a Poseidon, right? If you have this activated, the Poseidon will lose like everything, because he kind of relies on his Whirlpool's cripple to shut down enemies like Scylla, who have a good escape, right? So that's why you'd see a Poseidon being picked up against a Scylla, probably because that cripple is really strong. Now if you activate Disapparate, then you're moving plus 50% movement speed in a Whirlpool, and as well you're not having any movement penalties. So I mean, it's just really strong right now, and I could see this item this ability out of all the abilities being nerfed first. So as well, her damage is insane, right? It's like for 3 seconds, I believe it's 3 seconds anyways. So every 0.5 seconds, the enemy takes 100 damage plus 25% scaling, so up to 600 damage. And the interesting part about this is it's a two-tier kind of ability, right? It has two stages, and what that is you gain invulnerability, and it basically acts like a Chang'e 2 or a Vana 2. The only drawback to this is you don't have an invulnerability for 3 seconds. You have this form where you're creating like a little trail of fire, and then you turn into a ball that's invulnerable to everything. And while you're in that form, it's like an Aegis. You can't use actives, you can't use abilities. You're just kind of floating for a couple seconds, right? So it's like an Aegis in itself, but the trail also explodes and stuns enemies for 1.5 seconds. Now that's extremely strong. I could definitely see Hi-Rez toning this down to at least 1 second. And that's because like Agni has the exact same thing. He has a trail, but he has to use a second ability to use this, right? And that's only a 1 second stun. So I can definitely see a little nerve coming out from there. And Soul may leave her incorporeal form early, so you can just cancel your Aegis basically if you want to, like, I don't know, if you want to like trick them up or something, you know, like how Rama can ult and then everyone's like kind of expecting that he'll drop down after 3 shots, but you can cancel it early and just roll back and they'll be like, oh, what happened? So that's kind of the general thought behind the Disap right there. And finally we come to her ultimate. So her ultimate is very extremely effective in zoning. So let's just look at this. Soul unleashes all her flame and fury from the sky, striking 8 times along a movable ground target location. Enemies hit take 150 to 350 plus 50% of your magical power at scaling. So damage are knocked back on the first strike, only taking 20% damage on successive hits. This ability generates 10% heat. So this seems like an extremely powerful ability, and it definitely is. I definitely think so, because if you manage to hit all 5 of the enemy team, you're knocking them up. They can't do anything while they're knocked up, even if they try beadsing it, unless you can preemptively beads the knock up, or knock back, I suppose, then you're still going to be knocked back. You just won't get anything after that, because you're cleansing that with the beads. But if they're caught in the knockback, then you could possibly bait their beads, and honestly, you're taking a ton of damage. Max damage without the scaling, without this 50%, is up to 840. And keep in mind that a Scylla ult at max rank is 800 damage plus 120 scaling, I'm pretty sure. So already she's doing extremely well for herself. She's a spam mage. She has this great ult that comes up every 90 seconds, plus the 40% scaling would come around to like 56, 55 seconds. It's insane, you know? And just keep in mind though that the knockback is only on the first hit, not consecutive hits. So you can't consecutively knock back them like 8 times, right? But the targeter is similar to AMC's Honey, where it's shooting out and you kind of like guide it, right? It's not like you pick where each point is. You just kind of move your mouse the way you want it, like this. So I think is very, very interesting, and I like that. Very, very nice. If you'd want to, you could check out the dev insight, you know, just see where they got their ideas from and stuff. So just an overall impression of this god right now. She is a possibly a multi-role mage, such as, or like Alquang, Freya, you know, and she's likely a spam mage that does massive damage and can channel healing while doing damage and escaping using her 3. And she has low HP to compensate for her power, right? And she could possibly be bursted down due to that, so that's kind of like a con. And she could work very, very, very well with Polynomicon. Just a little thing about Polynomicon, it's like, let's see, I'm gonna look up Polynomicon really fast. So using an ability gives your next basic attack within the next 8 seconds 60% of your magical power, as well as additional magical damage. So, and this can be used every 3 seconds, so she could use it with her too, like every single time. I think that's extremely strong on her. and she will definitely benefit from something like that, right? Just having the Polynomicon's extra damage when she is a very, very basic attack-oriented god. She could definitely use Polynomicon very well. Probably one of the best, other than like Freya or Ao Kuang, right? So, moving into the god skins, we have Supernova Soul. I actually saw this on the patch notes, the actual video. Oh, it looks beautiful. This is probably one of my favorite recolors, just because I don't know, it just looks so good. Like, look at that. It's insane. So yeah. Next, we'll be going over to Robin. He has his gold legendary diamonds, and Grim Mariachi Loki, which is kind of like a Halloween thing for Day of the Dead, Mexicans, that culture. Odyssey 2016, new voice packs, new emotes, stuff like that. New avatars. Standard Ares has been switched back to the original art, and thank God, because that art was horrible. Holy crap, I've never seen like worse art. If anyone saw the Cali convention, the one that they wanted to switch it with, but they were like, oh, there's a copyright error, right? I didn't like that art at all. Like, I thought it was way too cartoonish, and Hi-Rez was making a mistake, to be honest. And I saw this art a while ago, and I was like, oh, that should be the Cali convention art. And they're like, no, let's pick this crappy copyrighted art. And then they're like, oh wait, no, it's copyrighted. So then they picked this one anyways. So I don't know. They updated the tutorial for kids, for newbies. The Halloween event, Tombstone, yeah. So basically, they made the arena kind of like a Halloween-ish thing. That's pretty cool. Misk, the play screen is overhauled. New achievements for Arachne and Rama. Why Arachne and Rama? I have no idea. Okay, now we get down to item changes. There's only 4 item changes, and it's Male Renewal. So originally, the passive was every time you get a assist on a kill, or you kill someone, you get 20% of your health and your mana back. That's pretty significant if you're in a game mode like Assault or Arena, you know, and you get a deicide. All of a sudden you have 100% of your maximum health back, right? 20 times 5. But now it's 15% of your maximum health and mana, so I think this is a very, very smart choice. I mean, before, you're seeing this picked up on literally every single every physical character that could use it, whether it's warriors in solo, assassins in jungle, you know, maybe the odd hunter that doesn't know how to build a hunter. It was just kind of redundant, and you really didn't need it. So next is Bluestone. So you're doing reduced damage from 30 to 26 over 2 seconds. So instead of the 15 damage every 2 seconds, now you're only doing 13 damage over 2 seconds, and that's really strong. Like, it may not seem like it's only 4 damage, right? But then you're like, oh, it's 4 damage, because if you're like out Sun Wukong, right, and you have 4 damaging abilities in your kit, then you're doing 120 damage over like probably like 5-6 seconds. So now with this one, you're doing 16 less damage than 120. So that's really good, especially for gods like Sun Wukong. You know, you gotta take them down a little bit, and it's available in Assault, which will be extremely annoying. It's basically like a rage, or not rage. Is it a rage? No, malice. That critical ability or item. So this item, malice, basically does damage over time, and you know, I guess it's pretty strong on something like Assault. Like this, you could buy this for 800 gold, and you're doing tons of damage with it. So it's very, very effective. I like the change to it. Next is the boots for mages. You got mages and you got guardians that use these. So, first of all, these are the power boots. They took off the 250 mana, which was very, very smart, and it gave it to the CDR boots, while this is now giving increased power of up to 45 damage, or sorry, 45 magical power. This is a really, really smart idea because think about it, CDR, you use your abilities more often, so you spam them. So why are you going to give mana to this one where you're trying to do more damage? It's kind of like the trade-off, right? There's no point in even having Shoes of Focus if this gives you mana, penetration, and more magical power. So it's like, why would I even get Shoes of Focus? Now, with this giving them the mana, now it's a little bit more viable. I probably won't pick it up, but it's good to be there, So, probably one of their smarter things. I really like their item changes this patch. And we're going to finish off now with God changes. And first we're starting off with Apollo. The moves increase the knockback strength from 175 to 250. This is not the damage, this is the amount that they're knocked back. So before they would be knocked back like 175. I'm not sure what units they use, but it was only 175 before. Now it's 250. So now they're being knocked back almost more like really, really far compared to 175, right? So just a little quality of life change. Not really quality of life, more like giving him a little bit more room to really escape. Because before it would be, since the knockback strength didn't knock them back as far, that means that they travel like less, so they have more time to chase Apollo. So then it's kind of like the moves is kind of useless. Might as well just mesmerize them. So that's kind of the idea behind increasing that. And Wheelish, this is, I don't know if I like this change or not, because it's like she could pull enemies through walls with gravity surge. That is horrible, horrible for someone who is in a jungle, right? Because if you're running away, I've done this countless times where I was a Wheelish. You just send Suku forward and then you hit them in the back and then you're like, gravity surge, but there's a wall there, so then you can't pull them, and it's like, god damn it. So now it's like, even if they're trying to jump over the wall into the tower, then you're like, gravity surge, and then it takes them back. So it's like, she could kind of support herself through it without having to pick a Geb, pick a Poseidon that has, characters that have knockups. So you don't have to rely on anyone anymore as a Wheelish. So that's good for her, but then it's also bad for teams that can't like work against a Wheelish, right? So I think this kind of like a indirect nerf to gods that have running away abilities. So like anyone that has a jump or anything that they can jump over the wall, it's kind of like a Wheelish poops on them now, because she can literally poop on them. And it's kind of like for someone like Alpoish, he could get away a lot easier now, because it's harder to hit a pull, it's harder to hit something over a wall that you can't see, rather than having someone jump away and then you're just like, oh, see ya, right? So that's nice for Wheelish, but crappy for everyone else. Next is Kabrakan, his refraction shield. That's when he slams his shields together. The reduced cooldown from 14 to 10, all to 10 seconds at all ranks. So that's basically, hey, he's a pretty bursty god, right? You need to spam his abilities. So why are we going to have it at 14 seconds when we can have it at 10 seconds at all ranks? So he can be a lot more aggressive in the early game, and we all like that, right? Next is Chalk. Chalk is finally getting some love, and his slow is increased from 5 to 25 all the way to 20 base to 40%. So people will just say, whoa, it's just a slow, right? Well, if you think about it, there's not a lot of, there's quite a few characters that have slow immunities in their kits, but like Hebo here, You can see there, he's immune to slow effects now. But 40% is huge. This is basically a weakening curse. And if you've ever played Chalk, then you know that as soon as you throw his axe, you can use Rain Dance, and then it will make a big area, almost the whole like lane, the lane width. And in a team fight situation, that's huge. If you're putting 40% slow on a team, then your team has a significant I don't even know the word. They gain a significant I'm just gonna avoid Chalk right now. You're making me pissed. Whatever. So yeah, he's getting good for the team fights. 40% slow. Definitely pick up Chalk in your solo lane, especially if you know your solo lane, because if you're solo queuing and you're going solo, then you don't need to pick up Chalk. You could pick up a Bellona or whatever, right? Because she has those protections and whatever. This is a really support-oriented god now because of that 40%. So just keep that in mind. Next is Hu Yi, my boy Hu Yi, the hunter. He has reduced cooldown of his one, that's the ricochet, from 14 to 10 seconds. So basically, Hu Yi is a hunter who lacks a hard steroid to really allow him to box, not really, instead focusing on landing powerful and stunning ricochets to make up for this. By lowering the cooldown, Hu Yi players should feel more impactful more often while also taking less of a risk when they go for double bounce trick shots. So this 10 seconds will also allow you to pretty much use your ricochet like twice during a wave. That's pretty significant, to be honest. I find often that Hu Yi gets outpushed in lane pretty hard, but he's kind of a boxing god, really. I mean, he has high scaling, he has a huge AoE ult, and he just does a really good job of securing that kill. So having Ricochet go down from 10 seconds, so if I want to use Ricochet twice, then I'd have to wait 28 seconds. If I want to use Ricochet twice, I only have to wait 20 seconds. So in a team fight, I definitely think that Hu Yi will be doing a lot better. Also, his dive bomb increased physical damage scaling from 30 to 60%, so he'll be doing a lot better in lane, in boxing, and in team fights. Mercury players who use Fastest God Alive to its fullest often see themselves landing very powerful in hands out of their ultimates or when ganking. We like this playstyle and how it forces people to go just far enough with their ultimates so they can turn around and punch the god with a powerful hit. Because of this, we have chosen to up the payoff potential of this passive. So before, Fastest God Alive, his passive, would give you a percentage of damage for your next auto attack, and it was up to 50%. Now 50% is not bad, especially when you have Mercury, who is I don't even know how to describe him. He does so much damage, and he does really well for himself when he can 1v1 characters, right? He's pretty squishy, so there's also that risk of dying, but if you can 1v1, you definitely can. That will give you a huge bonus, because currently you can go almost 1000 damage crits on one hit. So that is amazing just by itself. So if you have like a full charged ultimate, you ultimate I don't even know what it is. Like, it's not really a stun, but then you can't move during it, right? So kind of like a disorient. So they're disoriented, and then you punch them. That's 75% of your maximum damage. That is huge. You literally do 900 damage crit, and you're not even trying. Gods like hunters, you need to have the executioner to get their crits up there. That's just a basic thing, because it scales you every time you hit. The amount of damage scales upward, but this one, as soon as you hit, you'll do 900 damage. That is insane. So Mercury getting some love. Special delivery increased throw height from 300 to 350. Same idea with Apollo with the knockback. The the throw height is 350, so now when you throw the enemy god against the wall, you have more time to just double punch them or whatever you're gonna do, right? So Mercury definitely getting some love in this patch. I like that. Next is Nemesis, and her first will be Retribution, reduce cooldown from 18 to 16 seconds, not a big deal. Nox, Shadow Lock, this ability now cripples in addition to roots. So, I mean, if someone hits, like, CCs them outside of your area, like a Geb has rollout, he could hit them outside of the Shadow Lock. They will just be away from the root, but now it also cripples. So if they do get out of the root, you know, somehow, like maybe you canceled the root, then it will also cripple them. So someone like a Yanis will not be able to get away with their portal ability. Night Terror, improved targeting accuracy, and Sobek. So after looking at Sobek's performance and his limiting factors, we choose to lower the mana cost on his abilities, as well as give his ultimate more utility. Lowering his mana cost means he should be able to protect his teammates and catch enemies much more often. Increasing the utility on his ultimate means he has a better engage potential with this ability, while also allowing this ultimate to act as a much stronger deterrent for chasing enemies. So basically they just reduce mana across the board, you know, went from 110 to 90, 110 to 80, and then the slow from lurking in the waters goes from 35 to 40%. This isn't that bad. I don't mind this change at all, but the mana is very, very it's a hot commodity, to be honest, with supports. I mean, the mana is insane. Like if you've ever played support, I don't know how many times I've went into taunt as an Athena, like I've dashed and then I taunt, but there's no mana, so you just die, right? So having the mana reduce is definitely good for Sobek, considering he has built-in mana regeneration from his ultimate lurking in the waters. So his protections is also increased by 30% while submerged. That's awesome. That's good for him. But considering who the god is, Sobek, you know, solo back, I don't think he needed these changes, to be honest. Any Guardian is kind of strong by itself if they're not playing in the support role. You know, if you have a solo Sobek, he's gonna do a massive amount of damage for a relatively low mana cost. So I don't believe that they're really justified in doing this mana change, because I just don't see why. Next is Tyr. Tyr, having seen the Blink nerf, like I haven't seen him played in any game, honestly. Blink is now, I wouldn't say not viable, but it's not as good as it was, pretty much. So let's see what they did to help him out. They increased his defense stance protections from 8 up to 40 to 10 to 50. So that's huge. Right off the bat, you get 10 more protections for both magical and physical for free, basically, just for being in that stance. As well, they decreased the cooldown to change your stance for down to 10 seconds. This is pretty strong. I always find myself as a Tyr like, oh man, it's not like an ultimate where I can just keep on changing, cycling through the roles like an Uller or a Hell. That's why I play them more, because I don't like this ability to change stance, because I just think it's dumb and I don't think it's very good. So first of all, explaining what this is, the protections. So as you know, he's a very blink oriented god. So to counteract the not having blink, you'll take a lot of poke damage if you're just gonna walk and you're gonna take poke. So they wanted to counteract that with more protections, basically. And the cooldown is changed for 10 seconds. Pretty good. Vulcan not changed at all. Xing Chen. When viewing Xing Chen's performance, we noticed his ultimate was still providing a high amount of damage, tied to a very potent, potentially team-wide crowd control effect. We have adjusted the scaling down and increase the cooldown to 100 seconds at all ranks to control the potency of the skill to still be strong but more manageable. So this is his ultimate, Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, and they increase the cooldown from 100 to 100 seconds at all ranks. I don't really believe in this. And reduced magical power scaling from 20% to 10%. And I guess I believe in that, but I don't think that the scaling is really the problem. I just think it's the base damage, because you see Guardians all the time. They just destroy without doing anything. Like, I could build all aura items. I could build sovereignty. I could build Heartward Amulet, and then I could get any type of boots on Ares, and I can 100 to 0 any hunter in the game. And it's not, maybe it's a scaling, but he's just a crazy character, and I think the same thing is here. I don't think it's the scaling. I think it's the base damage, because he has pretty low scaling already. So I don't think getting 10% off will really affect this. The 100 seconds definitely is a good nerf to him, but I mean, considering it's the exact same as an Ares ult, I don't think that it should be. If it's 100 seconds for Xing Chen, I think it should be 100 seconds for Ares. Unless it already is and I'm stupid. You know, so let's go on to Zhang Kui. Zhang Kui is a mage that needs to get into the middle of the fight to be effective. While he has tools in his kit to help him, we felt that in too many situations he just didn't have what he needed to get the job done. We have increased some of his base stats, as well as allowed him to have magical protection scaling to help him in later phases of the game. We will be watching these changes slowly to see how it affects the Demon Queller. So let's talk about Zhang Kui for a bit. People played Zhang Kui in solo lane classically, you know. He's a very strange mage in the fact that he's not auto attack based. You know, he's not an assassin, but he's actually a mage. He's kind of like Chang'e a little bit, just a little less safer, because he really does need to get in there. He needs to pop his ultimate, you know, exercise demons, you know, stun and all this stuff. So he's just throwing himself into the middle of the fray. And what does he need for that? He needs tanky items. So just helping him out with increasing his health, his base health or whatever, and then health per level plus magical protections, it just gives him a lot to work with. I mean, before, he only has 1900 base health late game currently in our build, which is the I'm not sure which patch we're currently in, but in this next patch he will have 2065 health at level 20. So he gains 165 health late game, and his magical protections, I mean, obviously they will help, but I don't think that they're exactly needed, considering he's mostly played in the solo lane. So that means that most of the gods in there are physical based characters, and just the fact that he doesn't need to worry about mages. I mean, he needs to worry about CC, and from the CC, the setup onto the hunters that do 500, 600 damaging crits. And magical protections, I don't think it really helps. So, you know, just my 2 cents, but whatever. 450 base health, excellent. Health per level could have been 80, could have been, yeah, probably could have been 80 and I'd be happy. But yeah, that will actually do it for the Solar Flare patch. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, favorite, and subscribe.